What's up, Trekkies? It's your boy Wil Wofford here with Trekker's Delight, a Star Trek-inspired podcast. Before we get started, we're going to give away $100, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel where we will announce the lucky winner every single week. Now, welcome to Trekker's Delight.
Awesome! I always love that intro. I really do. You did such a great job, Will.
Thanks.
So, and I'm going to try not to die in the course of recording this podcast, but I make absolutely no promises one way or the other, because that's literally the only thing that would not have happened this week. So, Eris, you are going to lead us in with the summaries and the episode titles, because my mind is a blank.
Right. So the collective title for these two episodes, as it was a two-parter, is Mirror Darkly. This is one of the final episodes of Enterprise, wherein they visit the Mirror Universe, the evil Star Trek universe. To clarify, that is the evil Star Trek universe with emperors and gold trim everywhere and xenophobia, as opposed to the Picard evil universe with elected officials and neon and xenophobia everywhere.
But at least in Picard, they let Confederation officials wear clothes.
Is that really a good thing, though? I mean,
I don't know, man. You know, this is probably heresy, but I actually thought those uniform designs were pretty sharp.
Oh, they were very sharp.
It's kind of like, Hugo Boss designed the Nazi uniforms. Trigger warning. They were pretty stylish. I mean,
personally, I kind of love the whole Frank Frazetta uniform vibe of the original Mirror universe, but oh look, we've already derailed ourselves from talking about the actual summer.
And it's not even 4 minutes in. I'm super proud of us, guys.
For fashion, that's
right.
okay.
It's a fashion of all things.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, so original Mirror universe that we first got introduced to in Through a Mirror Darkly from the original series, and revisited in a few episodes of Deep Space Nine, and had an unofficial reference to in one episode of Voyager. So in this universe, basically everything is evil. Humans have an empire and are out to conquer the galaxy and either enslave or purge all the alien species that they encounter. We are introduced to this universe by a vastly improved opening scrawl that does not have the terrible Enterprise song, and instead has lots of historical pictures of ships shooting each other. Which
Eris.
Again, dark.
Faith of the heart.
Dark, but
They
still.
ain't got no faith in this one. They did it themselves.
Still, it says something that I feel like fascists are even an improvement over faith in the heart. Anyway, so the structuring of this
Literally
episode
not the day. This is not the day, Eris. This is not the day to do this.
they build this episode to slot in between two original series episodes, Tholian Web and Through a Mirror Darkly. What we are introduced to the Mirror Universe ISS Enterprise, where everybody is running around in sleeveless midriff shirts and carries knives and is generally being very mean to each other and engaging in power games. We quickly get introduced to Archer as second in command, pulling a coup in order to take over the ship and fly off into Tholian space, where he has caught a rumor of a much more powerful Federation starship from the Prime universe, the USS Defiant, not the Deep Space Nine Defiant, a completely different Constitution class Defiant, which this is where it ties into the Tholian episode from the original series. And they go there and figure out how to a lot of things happen. They fight and trick their way through the Tholians. The ISS Enterprise gets destroyed, but they manage to steal the Defiant, which is vastly more powerful. They shoot their way out of Tholian base. They confront the kind of nascent Enterprise era Earth fleet, blow up a few ships from it because they vastly outpower them. And then one of the really kind of the pinnacle twist of the episode, Hoshi, who in this timeline is the captain's woman,
Which is
betrays.
an official status, by the way.
Yes, betrays Archer, takes over the ship, pulls into Earth orbit, and declares herself Empress, which is, ditch energy. Just got to say that.
It's fair.
Which is pretty fantastic. And what I think we also need to remember is that the USS Defiant is from several hundred years in the future.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons it's so much more powerful. And so when Hoshi takes this back to Terra, she now has the type of technological jump on the rest of the galaxy that everyone was terrified Jurati's Born Queen would have in Picard.
Yes.
And that is why the Terran Empire exists and how it was able to take over literally everything, because all they did was reverse engineer Constitution class technology.
They were already on a big hellbent conquest. I mean, we've already seen them having decimated the Vulcans and the Andorians, I think, and are kind of fighting toe-to-toe with the Klingons at the moment. But yes, now they get a huge leg up with a much more powerful ship, which they still managed to fall apart by the time of Deep Space Nine. But
yeah, but details. But we're going to focus here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Hoshi, because the last episode we did involved Hoshi having telepathic contact with an alien and literally nobody on the ship believing her until it showed up. And it's very much indicative of how Hoshi gets treated throughout Enterprise's run, except in this episode.
yes,
There's a really fascinating power reversal, because you expect a Hoshi to show up as the captain's woman or some other subservient role, and yet she ends up turning that on its head, which is a pretty big move for a Berman era Trek.
yeah. It was. I mean, I remember I definitely liked it when I saw it. The whole that trope of the cunning power move courtesan or seductress is really a double-edged blade in its own right, and I have conflicted feelings about it. But as it was used here, in terms of Hoshi's character across the series of Enterprise, it definitely is kind of a, ironically, since she's evil in this, a
Right?
in which she actually gets to do something really.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Welcome to FTP.
Sorry
Welcome.
to interrupt. Sorry I'm late. I had to walk the dog. When I saw you guys were coming up, I'm like, oh yeah. But I had
Good
walk
to
the
see you
dog.
again, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right. So you were saying, Eris, about
Right. The courtesan who Hoshi's role in this, the idea of the sexy courtesan who exercises power by getting close to and manipulating and betraying men in power. In some ways, it's really problematic because it frames women as only having power through their sex and by betraying men and manipulating them. On the other hand, it's empowering in that it highlights a weakness within patriarchal depictions of men, I think, in showing how easily played they often are in these when these tropes are acted out in various shows.
I also believe that it's completely in culture in the Mirror Universe for her to do this. Like, completely
absolutely.
in culture. This should have been expected, because literally the only way you advance in, the Mirror Universe Terra is you kill whoever's above you and you you take their place. I mean, it's almost like this "you keep what you kill" kind of thing.
It's to give an acknowledgement to it being May the 4th. It's a very Sith ideology.
I agree with you. Like, but you got to wonder how much of it is real and how much of it is true and how much of it is just a trope that they've been used time after time again. And like you said, it's like, okay, if she didn't have her sexuality, would she be able to take over the ship? And it's like a slap in the face towards women. It's like, well, if you're not going to use your body, you're not really going to get anywhere. And it's also a slap in the face towards men. It's like, well, you're completely susceptible to a woman. But then you have people like Cleopatra who apparently
did just that.
And she was not even. I guess she wasn't really known to be, extremely attractive. She wasn't the most attractive woman on the planet, but I'm sure in the movie she will be. But yeah, it's kind of like I don't know which way to go on that, because it is possible for. I mean, I don't think that some woman could just totally swoon Kim Jong-un because of her sexuality and take over North Korea, right? Like, it doesn't go that far.
If it was going to happen in the modern world, it would have happened with the last presidency somehow.
Oh, right.
That was actually rewatching this episode. That was something that occurred to me, because there's a very real theory about the women who cling to these very patriarchal men in power, and that it has a lot to do with existing in this sphere where they don't have power, and so what they do is they attach themselves to this other person's power, and they actually leech off of it and use that as a way to establish status.
And we see too that this is that entire idea is portrayed a lot as something that men are afraid of, that straight men at least fear manipulation by women and their evil coochies.
I don't know if I heard that phrase, but I don't know if I heard that phrase before. I hope I don't use it on somebody one day.
Are you evil? I didn't know.
Evil coochies. I usually call it the coo cat. That's what I usually call it.
Well, that's
Does this come up for you, William? Does this come up a lot?
But it's come
I'm
up
the gay
before.
one here, so like
I was gonna say, William, I felt like you might have used this phrase before in a completely different context.
In a very different context. Like,
I forgot this was LGBT night.
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
It's like
I
it's
just
like
happened
it's
to
like
show. I just happened to be
a first
here, and I am
cousin
an
of
agent of
LGBT.
chaos.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But they also use that same thing with the Orion ladies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In an episode.
They do, and somewhere in the afterlife, Robin is
there
very
you go.
excited.
Robin is very happy with where she's at right now.
But you know what? I don't necessarily mind having their sexuality as a power. It's fine, but they could add something else to them. They can add, like, Hoshi could have been smart as well. She could have had other talents to add to that that coup, rather than.
I actually think she was.
Did we just invent coup by the coup?
Coup by the coup.
Entirely. Man, that's going to be this episode's title. Coup by the coup.
I'm literally fool around. I'm gonna name it that because this is officially episode 10 of Fight the Patriarchy.
Coup by the coup.
Because I mean, like, she has to be pretty clever, because she's got to figure out she's got to plan several steps ahead in order to make sure that she effectively. I think she poisons Archer, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
We don't even know if she's going to be good at her job. Like, we don't. Episode ends and then that's it.
She not only poisons Archer, she had already established an alliance with I forget forgot the guy's name.
Mayweather.
Mayweather, yes.
Oh, he was
Right.
so fine in that red. So fine.
Mhm.
And I
That's the
think
only time I ever liked him. Only time.
I think that's
To
a
me, like, I don't think of this necessarily as being a depiction of this is all she can do. I see this as her using the resources she has.
yeah.
Right.
Like I was gonna say, I think that looking at this trope again of the woman who uses sex to get what she wants from men, within a patriarchal society, that's always portrayed very negatively. Like, how dare she, that slut? It takes
Why
a
not?
lot.
She is stepping out of the role that she's been assigned.
But she's also, it takes a lot of cleverness and willpower and planning and social intelligence to pull off something like that. So I think I really feel like, and I think that this would transcend as well. I've often thought this transcends as well to the idea of the woman who climbs the corporate ladder by sleeping with people. That we like, our society likes to disparage that as being, unearned power, when in fact it's showing a lot of capability to be able to pull something like that off.
And it fascinates me because you
I'd
just
sleep with someone for a promotion.
Hmm?
So what? I said
I'm sorry?
I'd sleep with someone for a promotion.
I'm just saying.
If any of my corporates are watching this show,
I
saying,
sleep with someone who could guarantee me a restructuring of the Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely.
good luck with that.
I know,
I'm
right?
just saying- I'm just saying, if Mayweather was over me in any capacity, I would make sure that those capacities would extend to more ways than one.
There you go.
What do you mean by over you?
I think it means exactly what you think it means.
All of the ways.
On top?
Yes,
Oh boy.
Man, we're getting way into this now.
or vice versa. Save that for LGBT night. Like right now, we're just fighting the patriarchy. I mean, because it's like at this point, this isn't fight the patriarchy anymore. This is dominating the patriarchy.
Right?
I have to say that Mayweather is like one of my least favorite characters. I just
Because
don't
they
like,
never know what to do with him.
I don't like my homie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even like his acting most of the time, and his character arc is pretty shallow, and I don't know. Least
But I
favorite
love what
Hellsman.
this episode does with him, because
Yes.
I don't think they ever really figure out what to do with Travis Mayweather throughout the entire run of the series, except here. And I love that, and this is why I picked this episode. The fact that we have the two minorities that have been sort of, patted on the head for the entire run of the series win.
True. That is true. Everybody else was dominant throughout the series.
Malcolm gets it. Archer gets it. Everybody gets it,
Yeah.
except Mayweather and Hoshi, who have basically consistently been treated very poorly by the writers and everybody else. And so I sort of wonder if this episode is really kind of a push back, or you could make the argument that it isn't, and that this can only happen in the mirror universe. And
Well, I think they probably did that on purpose because, like, Hoshi, there was like, okay, she has space phobia, and there's only so far you can go with that, and then she pretty much had nothing. And then I think they probably did, made a conscious effort to like make them a little more dominant in the episode.
I mean, this Hoshi was a reaction from the Prime Universe Hoshi.
Right.
She didn't really have that much originality to her up until she found out her prime counterpart's fate, which we assume she finds out her fate. We assume at some point in between scenes she read what the ending, even though she yelled at Archer, I don't want to know. I guarantee she went back and finished it, and it prompted her to take over the ship in the Empire, and then stuff like that. She's like, no, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me.
Well, let's also have a conversation about what that fate was for Prime Universe Hoshi.
Yes. It happens a ways before the original series, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So effectively what happens is Hoshi has a stunning career. She teaches for a while. She goes, I mean, you know, she has a life. And in her retirement, she moves to a colony on a lesser known planet named Tarsus 4. Tarsus 4 is significant because James Kirk also ends up on Tarsus 4 during a major famine. And the colony governor, his name is Kodos, decides that since they don't have enough food to feed everybody, and they can't seem to reach Starfleet, what they're going to do is they're basically going to cull the less desirable people. And Hoshi was caught up in that cull. Kirk was not.
I'm sorry, where did you learn all this? Because I'm like, it's like going way up. I'm like, okay.
It's actually that is actually an allusion to the episode in the original series, The Conscience of the King.
Okay.
I feel like there was a novel series about Empress Sato as well, but I don't remember that.
I mean, that's entirely true. I also think that the decision to cast Michelle Yeoh, in addition to the fact that Michelle Yeoh is just amazing and that woman can like kick me in the face any day of the week and twice on Sundays. But I think that's why we get Michelle Yeoh is because they're making an allusion to Empress or Emperor Sato.
Right. People are trying to say, "Oh, is she a descendant?" Well,
she is. She is.
Well, one of them. I mean, you can mix one of them Japanese and one of them Chinese, but it's just like, I guess either way, it doesn't really matter because anyone could actually be a descendant of anyone, regardless of what they look like or what their last name is. Right. So I wonder, was that a conscious nod to her or not, or was that to get people thinking, you know, what's going on?
There was a lot that was very, very deliberate about season 1 of Discovery, and I know Will. I know.
Well, he doesn't like it.
No. Don't pull the string on the Cupid doll, Jason. Don't do this to us. We're 23 minutes in, and we've been mostly on point. Come on, guys, we can keep it going. I think I think there was a lot of really deliberate decision making that went into season 1, especially with respect to the mirror universe component.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is that yes, that was very deliberate.
Right, none of that would have been by accident because they had to put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
And even if it was
Michelle Yeoh was shockingly up for it, so you know, aces.
Yeah.
I'm being good.
I don't even want to get into it because I'm like, what?
I'm being good.
And just as a note, without season 1, there's no season 2, 3, Prodigy, Card.
I had nothing to say.
You know.
This ain't about that today.
When you go to sleep at night, just remember that. That's all.
If I do sleep tonight, actually, I'm not going to sleep tonight because y'all know what tonight is.
This is Strange New Worlds.
The season finale of Picard and the opening of Strange New World.
So you watched that? You watched that like at midnight? You watched that?
I got to. I work 12-hour days. I got to.
Mm.
And I don't care.
To be young again.
Right.
You know.
Like
I'm literally watching my kids like run around and try to storm the door of their nursery, and I'm just like, all I want to do right now is take a nap. But I'm here for the love of Trek.
For the love of Trek.
For the love of Trek. What do we think about the fact that the Prime Universe Starfleet is responsible for the creation of the Terran Empire?
I just want to say one thing, and anyone can take this and roll with it. I just want to throw out there that they were well within their rights to do that, because this does not, the Prime Directive does not apply in this case. Nor does nor does the Temporal Prime Directive at all, because they're warp capable and they literally exist in the same time frame, just in a different universe. So
they don't exist in the same time frame. That's
how are you?
Well, between I'm thinking about the Kirk episode.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about that. Like, I'm not thinking about the Kirk episode. The fact that that it's the Defiant that gets lost, and transported across universes, and they get a hold of the Defiant, and they take over the Defiant, and they reverse engineer the Defiant, and then create and use that as a jumpstart for their own technological development.
But I thought the actual term for it was like earlier in our history, like World War II or something like that.
There was I can chime in on this because there was well, we never saw the mirror universe in an episode of The Next Generation. There was a pretty big novel about it that I seem to remember was a pretty big deal as far as the vast slew of fanfic that is the Star Trek novels goes. And in that, they explored it a bit more. And I remember Picard was reading books in the mirror universe and said that it went way back in history. Like in the mirror universe, Shakespeare didn't write any comedies. They were all just tragedies and people being utterly vile to each other. And just sort of keeps bubbling up through history with at any point in time humanity took a turn for the better. They actually did the eviler thing,
right?
It culminating with as we see in the opening of these Enterprise Mirror Darkly episodes, with when the Vulcans land on Earth in First Contact.
Right.
Zephyr Cochrane shoots them in the face with a shotgun, and humanity takes their ship.
Right, and you also see flashbacks of wars where the Empire seems like it was already happening.
I'm not disagreeing that there wasn't something inherently wrong with the Terra Prime, right? Like in that particular iteration. What I'm saying though is I don't necessarily buy that, considering the Terrans were coming from pretty far behind, that, for example, the Vulcans would not have been vanquished nearly as easily without that technological advantage.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Because I think we're really looking, because remember, like effectively when the Vulcans land in Montana, it's kind of like showing up with a Chevy to somebody who hasn't even quite gotten the wheel yet.
Yeah. And, I wondered about, I was kind of wondering about that actually with this season of Picard. How does a humanity that doesn't embrace all kinds of alien cultures and bring together all that collective knowledge and simply quantity of people and resources get to the point where it can defeat the Borg? Like I thought that was strange.
I thought are we talking about how we got that far in Picard is what you're asking?
Yeah, that's
okay. I think because I wanted to point something out. It's like you said, Ayers, that we didn't see canonically on film any mirror universe episodes with TNG.
Right.
None. We saw it in Deep Space Nine. We saw it in Enterprise. We saw it in TOS. We saw a hint, an open to interpretation hint in Voyager, and we've seen, which I loved, by the way. I hope they do something with that. And we definitely see it in Discovery. I think that, to me, one of the reasons why I like the idea of the Confederation is because it definitely is a representation of what the Empire would look like if Terrans were not slaves and they actually pressed on and they kept going. What if in that timeline Kirk never interfered at all? Period. Maybe that's what it would look like. They change their uniforms, they grow, they evolve, and they become villainous. They do that. I think that is what, to answer if it can, to answer that question, that is what that mirror universe would look like if Kirk never interfered.
I don't know if they would be strong enough, if they would be strong enough to take on the Andorians and the Vulcans
and the Klingons, guys.
Yeah,
and the Klingons. If they were a threat, normally they're not really a threat. They're just uninteresting.
It's
Remember,
weird that
like,
they got them in
this
their
is the mirror universe equivalent of the NX-01, right?
Yeah.
Which is a Warp 5 engine, versus everybody else, guys. Like, I mean, that was never going to work out. I think it really is the fact that they successfully captured and reverse engineered the Defiant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, as a result, though, that means that Starfleet, Prime Universe Starfleet, is responsible for pretty much all of that.
I mean, that's a really broad interpretation of responsibility, I would say. Someone steals your stuff through a way that you had no real way of preventing. I mean,
Right.
Your ship being captured by aliens from another dimension is kind of a difficult thing to,
I mean,
hold
like
someone
the legal
liable
term in this
for.
case would be act of God, but
I can see how
I think
history might
that's-
twist it that way,
I
though.
think that's an interesting link, though, that they're trying to make here. Because the fact that it's the Defiant, I mean, sure, they're using the Defiant because it existed in canon, and this was a nice way to like tie everything in. But one of the things that we certainly explore in Deep Space Nine is how interrelated the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe actually are.
Mm-hmm. Well, Deep Space Nine is a very interrelated show.
Yes, to be sure. But what I'm talking about here, though, is that there have been, the back and forth has had pretty drastic effects on cultural touchstones. And if you think about it, right, like the Mirror Universe thematically is supposed to be, but for the grace of God go I, right? Like the utter antithesis of what we have in the Federation. So what I like about this is that we've got a thematic link now that no matter how well intentioned you might be, somewhere down the line, that's not going to matter.
Right. It's also the way you just phrased that there, Marie, made me think of kind of a Tolkien-ism of evil not being able to create do an original creation. It can only pervert and destroy what good has done, which we get which is throughout all of Tolkien's writings in the Silmarillion. And yeah, I think you're onto something with that. That even if the Terran Empire was dark and evil before any contact with the Prime Universe, its ability to become more than an upstart little solar system punching its fists against the bigger powers in the galaxy
and all of a sudden they have a nuclear option
is due to the Prime Universe and its much better place.
Well, it's too bad that we don't. There's no timeline that explores the option, but it explores that story like beyond DS9, because that's the latest show that we have is DS9, which is weird because, well, I guess Picard is the latest show, but they haven't gone into.
Yeah, but I don't think that's Mirror Universe, unless something happens tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. But DS9 is as far as we've gone, and that's when we start seeing the relationship between the two universes going back. I mean, Jake's mother was out there, and there's a whole lot of story going on.
And more than willing to stab Cisco. More than willing.
More than willing. So it's a shame that we don't get to see how far that goes. Unless they do another series that takes place later.
Well, and I think we're still potentially getting a original Discovery era Section 31 show with Michelle Yeoh, the former Empress. So that might
that's still greenlit. So the pandemic slowed down production, and then Michelle Yeoh's schedule slowed down production. So I think now she's getting to a point where she's got a gap, and so it may be that they can start working on the scripts that they generated.
But Section 31 takes place in her time era, right? Or we don't know. We don't know where they're gonna put
We
it.
don't know.
It could
All we
be
know is
either.
that it's going to feature Michelle Yeoh, and it's going to feature a different side of Starfleet. We don't even know if Shazad Latif is coming back.
Okay.
In fact, I think that I think it's heavily implied that he's not.
And even if it starts off Discovery era, as we've seen with Discovery, they will happily jump all over the timeline. So
Timeline? What is this timeline?
we, you know,
They're
it
jumping
all
all over the timeline.
I'm just waiting for Doctor Who to get involved somehow.
It'd be nice. Are they still making Doctor Who's?
Oh yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
oh,
they
yeah.
are.
I
They still have the
actually-
woman, or is she gone?
Yeah,
this
Jodie
was her.
Foster-
She's wrapped up.
I
they're,
didn't like. I was the other thing is I liked her. I didn't like the writing of the shows that she was in. Like I'm interested in seeing her still, but like I didn't like that. I didn't like the episodes of that of the seasons.
Actually, I saw a fan theory going around that android body Picard could become the Federation's doctor and just get whipped around through time, stabilizing important events in Federation history.
Oh my
We-
god. He's
he
going
might
to be Samuel
He's
Beckett.
too old to be doing that though.
He's way too old to be.
Yeah.
He loves archaeology, but he is way too old.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
again,
Nora. But I know Nora has been sitting on something that she's wanted to talk about all episode. Let's talk about uniforms, babe.
Seven could
Okay, thank you. I've been waiting. Like nobody's going to mention the uniforms. What's happening? As you guys know, I'm new to the Star Trek world, and this was my first time seeing these two episodes. So first, I just have to say, with the first contact, I was like, okay, yeah, here we go. I know this. And then he raised his hand, and I was like, okay, it's a mirror universe, so maybe he'll just, high five or a hearty thumbs up. But when he pulled out the gun, I was like, okay, this is what we're in for. And apparently, also in the mirror universe, the men get two whole shirts. The women get a half a shirt with no zipper. So, I mean, that's fine if that's your aesthetic. I support you, but it seems, I don't know, for a required work uniform.
I would have to defer to, I guess I'll defer to like the women, the heterosexual women, on their takes on men and like, do you want to see more sexuality in the men? Do you think having them clothed the way they do is sexy enough for you? Because people obviously have an idea of what they want for women.
It's not sexy enough.
I mean,
Somebody's mic is
Yeah,
tearing it
someone's
up.
mic is happening.
Might be
Marie's.
Marie.
It's Marie's.
Oh, bad Marie.
oh,
I do think it's interesting, actually looking at the
yeah, you're full on robot.
the sexuality of the mirror universe uniforms does kind of utilize another unfortunate trope, which is that if it's sexy, it's more likely to be evil.
Right. It's weird that they make that
To
correlation.
hit on the LGBTQ thing again, we see a lot of with villains being portrayed as a bit queer in even modern media. I'm not going to throw Loki under the bus for it because that goes all the way back to Norse mythology. So we can't blame them for it. We can't blame the modern producers for that. They're being true to how Loki was originally written, but he's a really good example of it, of queer being evil.
But yeah, but even women, they do tend to be like more sexy for some reason, and playing their sexuality. Ooh, like that girl from the Flash Gordon movie. Well, I don't know what the.
Oh
name of the
yes,
Is that a question of women are actually sexy, or that these productions are?
I think to see what Marie was trying to say here before she went staticky. I don't think I would definitely take issue with the statement that evil women are sexy. I think that is the male gaze sexualizing the idea of evil women.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I wasn't saying that they are. I'm saying in the movies they are. That's what I'm saying. In
Oh,
real
okay,
life,
sure.
Oh yeah.
in real
Uh-huh.
life, I mean, in real life, I might find evil women sexy, maybe, but they're not necessarily being sexualizing themselves because they're evil. You know what I mean? They.
Are you sexualizing them because they're evil?
I'm I'm sure I sexualize them for some reason. I don't know. Um,
I feel like we can
This is what
blame
happens when we finally get a straight guy on the show.
I was kind of waiting. I'm actually paying attention to see where all this goes, because this
do
is
I
a diverse
find-
scale episode.
well, it's hard to say how many evil women do I know in real life. Not many, but like you said, when you see them on TV, the evil women are
Portrayed as sexy.
over-sexualized more than
Mhm.
the heroines.
I don't think it necessarily transfers to real life very well, because I mean, Margaret Thatcher, definitely not sexy.
Oh.
Amy Coney Barrett, no, Marjorie Taylor Greene, no, hell no.
Right. Now I am
Professor
like
Umbridge.
I would say
Right.
I'm attracted to women that I'm attracted to like independent women, and self-empowered women like that. But bad, mean, evil, powerful women, I don't find myself more attracted to them just for that reason.
Which I like, and I'm not trying to rag on you here for this. I just think that what you said there brings up another interesting point about the male gaze portrayal of women is that independent, willfully minded women are often at least flavored as evil in a lot of popular media.
And
Well,
the
I just
reason
feel like-
for that is, again, these are women who are stepping outside of the traditional role, right? They're now they have the temerity to do things like want agency and want power and want to do things that they're not able to do. And so there's this very real sense, from Shakespeare on, and even earlier, that if you have this woman who is stepping outside of this, she's upending the natural order of things. And when that happens, the disorder actually spreads to the rest of the cast and to the rest of the story. And it's not until she's brought to heel, necessarily, that order is restored.
Right.
I was reading something from some historians and archaeologists recently about that, and about how we tend a lot of actual historical women from both inside of Christian Western civilization and outside of it have been subjected to reinterpretation through that lens over the centuries, because Christendom and Christian thought placed such an emphasis on subjugating women that any powerful women in history had to have something wrong with them. We get
Right.
that. We see that in the character assassination done on Cleopatra that we talked about a little earlier. A lot of the things that have been attributed to her, we really don't have much evidence for. Elizabeth Bathory, I think, is another good example.
Yep.
The whole bathing in the blood of virgins things almost certainly did not happen. She just happened to have make some power moves in the power vacuum of her relatives, and they turned her into, they being, the churches and the patriarchal societies around her, turned her into this heinous evil monster.
And then, like, brick her up in a
Yeah.
room.
Well, people also said that slaves that wanted to be free were mentally challenged as well. Like there was something wrong
Right.
with them.
Right.
Right.
Because if you can successfully other the person that you want to be more important than, if you can make them less than you, then it's natural, then it's legitimate, and you can actually do like this mental gymnastic that's going to get you around to a point.
we
where you can
do
live.
that. We've done that throughout time with everyone and everything. It's part of what slavers come from. We do that right now just by calling people criminals. Well, they're criminals. Why should they? When they say there's problems in jail, well, they're criminals.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get people to see what's happening inside of a prison because no one cares, because they're just criminal. So
Right.
we still do that.
Or they make a mockery of it, which is what happened in Arizona.
Right. Wait, what happened?
A woman
Which is, again, a problematic issue. But go back to this. But to bring this back to Hoshi and sexuality and sexualization, Elizabeth I had to be the Virgin Queen in order to maintain power. Because if she had attached herself to a male relative or to a husband or what have you, then she would have no power. And what I liked about, one of the things I really loved about Discovery is that the whole speech about the mother of Klingons paraphrases one of Elizabeth I's actual speeches.
Oh,
that she gave. Where she talks about she talks about like
I'm not a virgin. Was that her speech? I'm not a virgin. I lied.
No, she never says that.
We saw that scene real clear.
Now, I mean, she was clearly up to something with Francis Drake, guys. Like, clearly. Now, whatever they did behind closed doors is whatever they did behind closed doors. My point here is that there's this moment where she has to, like, basically what she has to decide is that she has to convince everyone that England is going to be her child. She had to couch her, like, ruling her tenure in terms that would appeal to the existing schema, which is profoundly male dominated. And that's exactly what we see in Discovery.
That's fascinating. I was not aware.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I just watched. I just watched the Elizabeth Holmes. Is that her name? Theraflu girl.
Oh yeah.
I just watched that series, and that was her main thing throughout the whole thing. Was her boyfriend. She did not want anybody to see she had a boyfriend, like at all, because they would just ruin her, and no one would take her seriously. I think that's kind of silly, but and this is recent. This is now times.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at pay scale different derivations, and it's a very different kettle of fish, right? Yeah. Because the hierarchy is, man of color, woman of color, woman of lots of color, like at the bottom.
Right.
I didn't like the company I've worked at. The last company, didn't really see a lot of that, but I don't really know. I don't know what people's paychecks were.
Because
that's the thing. That's a deliberate.
I heard statistics going around because I listen to the radio as I'm going back and forth to work. That between millennials and Gen Z, 70% of them actually discuss amongst each other, I myself being one of them, about our paychecks, and that's something that our managers and bosses don't want us doing, because now we know what the other person is getting paid for what and how much work they're doing or how much work they're not doing, and they're getting paid more than me.
Yeah,
you want to know why.
You should be able to discuss that. I don't see why you should be able to.
Okay, so first off, in the United States, because I know we have some international listeners and viewers, in the United States, it is illegal for there to be a policy preventing you from discussing your salary.
Yeah. It's just frowned upon.
So where did this conditioning come from? Where did this conditioning come from for us to not?
It is a
crass to talk about money.
It came from the people in charge not wanting you to find equality in the payment system. Whether it's
basically what happened is the robber barons and their and descendants lost the battle in court with the unions on that issue. So they went to ground and they created a culture. And so what would happen is in at-will situations, you start talking about your salary, you get fired. They find a reason.
They just look for any reason.
Yeah. And that we're seeing that a lot now with workers that are currently in the process of trying to unionize. Specifically, Starbucks is coming to mind.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, women are starting to get paid a lot more than they were before. It's on the rise. Probably not where it needs to be. Like most issues that we have, but it is on the rise and it is being addressed somewhat.
I'm
And then on
hoping.
the other hand, we have like everything crashing before us.
That's
All
right. That's right. And there's a really good argument to be made. Wow, this is getting really, really political.
I mean, this is
It's Star
definitely.
It is Star Trek. So yeah, Star Trek is inherently political. So anyway, and anybody who says otherwise has not been paying attention.
Oh, that's a whole FTP on its own. Like,
we are totally gonna do that. We're gonna
Wait, I want to get this
do an
right.
FTP
Star
episode
Trek
on the
gets so
Federalist
political.
Papers.
1966,
for
you
Love.
dumb fuck.
I want to get this straight. So Nora is not a Trek person, or you? Have not-
I'm a baby Trek person.
mean,
I've seen
what-
bits and pieces of everything.
Okay, but you've never seen a series entirely through.
I've never watched except for Picard because it's now.
all right, yeah.
So
Okay. Well, got your homework. If you want to get paid,
I'm working.
you want to get paid like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get paid like that.
That's so much fun coming on here.
What
Because
was that?
she's like, I find out so much random stuff, and I'm like, yep, like, I have zero useful life skills, but man, I can remember some trivia.
I love it. And then I go down rabbit holes, and then I go on to the next series, and then I come back, and so I'm coming at it from a puzzle, and I don't do puzzles very well. I don't start at the outer.
Is it starting to web together for you yet, or is it still in pieces?
Some things are starting to click, but no, it's still like most of the time when you guys are talking, I'm like, okay, I know this, and there's a gap, and I know this.
Do we tell her about the connection between Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5?
Oh no.
Probably not. It's too much.
No, that's a much later comment.
What about these?
We've already changed her hair color once. We don't want to do it again.
I know. It's been a journey. It's been a journey.
What about these? What do they call them? Agonizers they got.
Mm-hmm.
I always found so. It seems to me like when they get out, they're not like physically hurt at all, right?
Yeah.
Because like in Discovery, they were in there for God knows how long, months or whatever, and then Lorca got them out, and they're like, okay, let's go kill everybody. Like no rest, no heavy breathing, no nothing. Same thing on Enterprise. I just always thought that was just kind of weird.
You're looking for too much detail, Jason.
I guess so.
Too much detail.
Maybe next time when we don't have 6 minutes left. Of course, it always gets good in the last 15 minutes of every episode we do. But, hey.
And we could talk about agonizers.
This sounds
Well,
like
I
the
mean-
Mirrorverse question
They
from.
actually date from the original series because a number of folks actually get tossed in them.
Do they have anything equivalent to agonizers in Picard?
Not yet.
Not that we've seen, no.
I mean, there's no punishment like that.
This sounds
I'm sure
like
there
something
is.
topical to John Scalzi's novel Red Shirts about how everybody in Star Trek should have massive PTSD and not be functional after like their second away mission.
Right? I mean, if you
We've
watch
seen evidence
TNG,
of that in Discovery season 4, finally, when
Yeah.
we learn that they are feeling the effect.
They ain't okay.
yeah, I think
They ain't okay.
they should have done that. I mean, like even like TNG, like every episode, just starts off with them walking casually down the hall, like this is the best life I ever had. Like you almost died horribly last week.
Don't you remember yesterday?
You know,
I mean, we do. We get one episode in 90s Trek. One. And that's the one where it's only a paper moon and Nog is dealing with his PTSD
Oh yeah,
in the holodeck.
yep.
I just realized because whenever there are PTSD episodes, they're usually in the episodic ones like Family and TNG, the Nog one at DS9. There was a particular B'Elanna one when she just learned that all of the Maquis have been wiped out.
True.
And the reality of her situation I mean, she already knew that they admit that was Quadrant 6-7 years, but it really was set in like
Everyone she knew, everything
it's
she
gone.
believed in is gone.
So it's like, what's the point in even going back? They're either gonna kill us or lock us away easily now. And then she ended that with if we ever get back.
But that was something that did not really happen to her. Like all this stuff happened on the ship. Like Voyager missed a great opportunity for them to spend the first half of this first season integrating onto the ship, like with the Maquis and not having.
Did anybody else think that went entirely too easily?
Yeah.
Entirely too
Voyager
easily.
missed every opportunity in the boat, in the universe, about how their voyage should have been.
Right.
Battlestar Galactica, the remake, is what Voyager should have looked like. Perhaps minus the god-minded robots, but
I mean, yeah, let's not go into Mormonism, okay?
Well, Battlestar Galactica was fantastic, so
I agree.
that, you know.
And I stand by my assertion that Alison Pill's red dress is actually an allusion back to Trisha Helfer.
especially with Gaius Baltar being Picard's.
I know.
say,
That man is his own Easter egg.
I will say, if they would have rolled with the Year of Hell being a season long, we would have definitely seen some PTSD.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that would have been great.
We would have
That
definitely.
would have been fantastic. That would have been fantastic. But
That would have been great
that was never
because it's like-
that was never going to happen. That was never going to fly.
It's never going to fly. I mean, we learned that it was a year, or roughly over a year, or almost a year. We learned that that time did pass, but I liked the fact that they were willing to get their hands a little dirty, because it's like Captain Ransom was going through Year of Hell time and time and again, which is honestly realistic.
Right.
It's like, you are in the middle of nowhere. There ain't no gas station, baby.
The Equinox.
On the Equinox. So it's like, and I loved that Equinox series because you could clearly see the PTSD on all of the Equinox crew.
Yeah.
In which, and if we ever get into that about mental health, I hope we talk about that one too. But you're right. Voyager missed a great opportunity to show some PTSD. All they did was just show traumatizing episodic stories.
Plus,
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. Plus, it was made after DS9.
After DS9,
didn't
right.
make sense because before that, before we had stream and everything, you had to be sitting in front of the TV when it came on, unless you had a VCR. They were scared that if you.
Oh, Jason, we're going back into the past now. We're gonna have to explain we're gonna have to explain
VCR.
what a VCR is.
Nora's hair color is changing again.
VCR.
know what a VCR is.
The VCR. But you had to, if you missed, they were scared that if you missed this week's, you wouldn't understand what next week's show was about. So they were very hardcore about not doing that. But they moved into it with DS9, and after that, they should have taken it and at least done it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're stuck with it, and now they're happily going back to doing some episodic episodes with Strange New Worlds. But I'm pretty sure they're
looking forward to that. That is an excellent segue, Jason. So, plug. Obviously, Thursday is going to be our show reviewing Picard finale, but stay tuned because Friday we're going to have another live show discussing the first episode of Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Oh,
So
man.
we're going to wrap up. We're at the hour mark. Somehow we have wandered everywhere
Oh, it's been
in
great.
this episode. But we have, and I just want to run through introductions again. We have Nora from Bone Apogee. We have Eris Furmore. We've got Jason McCammon and William Wofford. And as always, I am Marie Brownhill from Trekker's Delight and Game Industry News. So, hey, let us know, comment, like, subscribe, and tell us what you want to hear next. And if you're interested in what we're doing, love to hear from you.
I have one thing I want to say before we go off, because this is I have wanted to vocalize this about the Mirror Universe to somebody, and this is the best I'm ever going to get.
This is it. This is it.
All right, she's going for it. All right.
I had a long-standing fan, kind of a headcanon idea of the Mirror Universe actually getting its xenophobic start, because in that universe, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds actually happens, and humanity gets almost wiped out by the Martians, but defeats them and reverse engineers their technology and takes the stars ahead of time with a severe paranoia about everything that's out there. And Dr. Soon's genetic engineering, the Conates, create superhumans who are smart and strong enough to basically function as, Warhammer 40K Space Marines within the Star Trek
Okay.
universe.
Also, I've got to list the number of references we've had. We've had Battlestar
So many.
Galactica. We've had Doctor Who.
I got one more.
Yeah.
I got one more. To
Sure.
perfectly fit Eris's view. Let's just say that that's Independence Day. Because it is. They came down, they raised hell, the humans fought back, Data got knocked out, they brought him back in the sequel. He even said sick bay. So we know that that's soon. It's perfect.
And then did they learn to sample the air before they went down there?
All that.
But the Martians were always really primitive in terms of space flight. Like their ships in the original War of the Worlds were basically giant cannonballs that they launched across space. Like
I got to tell you, John Johns is feeling very offended right now.
they barely had our level of technology right now when they decided to invade Earth. And in the book, not the 1950s movie with the awesome floating Martian war machines that could withstand nukes. In the book, the Martian tripods, I mean, they could be taken down by cannon fire, or in one very famous scene where they wade out into the water and get rammed by a British warship. It's just they are so much better and more mobile than all the military forces at the time that no one could ever bring all of that to bear.
It's a pretty messy and silly way to try to take over our planet.
Yes. Anyway, that was my thing that I had to get off my chest.
I love it.
So apparently, we are going to end FTP, like a commentary on patriarchal relationships, with taking over the planet, which I feel is kind of appropriate in in light of the fact that we live in the mirror universe currently. So anyway, as I said, like, subscribe, let us know what you want to talk about, and reach out. We are more than willing to chat with you. And thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Now, again, I'm going to say this again because we're near the end of our show. If you are our allies, we are not talking to you. We are not talking to you. This does not... Okay? We're not talking to you. Stop trying to take our and make it your goddamn business. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Our experience of grief independently.
Bruh.
Yes.
I love that they're in the comments.
So much is like, I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah. They should have brought their child out. It's such a good point, Will. God, that's such a good point. And he's really thought about it too. You should be here. William, get over here.
I thought he had a girlfriend on Insta. It's been ages since I've mucked about, but
Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
yeah, we gotta move on.